Good morning, everyone. And what do I see before me this morning but good old America, or American senator, is now going to be throwing some legislation together to control video game design. And of course, it's not just any old video game design, it's the manipulative loot boxing and I guess the predatory work of releasing games and not fully releasing them until you spend money. That's always a bad thing in personal circles. I talk to people about, why isn't the game released entirely? You spend money, that's bullshit, etc. I think everyone would agree that's bad. However, the idea of throwing legislation together and forcing or enforcing the developer not to do it is, I think, a bit too much. I think the marketplace is smart enough to not buy into this model. And we've seen that with Star Wars Battlefront 2, where they actually removed loot boxes. And that's a good thing. That should happen naturally. I think EA will learn their lesson, not very well, but they'll still learn it, that they're not going to put up with this anymore. And that's where we get review bombing and all sorts of comments. And if EA's honest about being or listening to clients or customers, I think that is how it should go. And they can keep making games with those business models in mind, and we just simply have to stop buying them. That's that simple. So the idea behind this senator, though, is that he wants to stop this behavior from game designers or game developers because it can push children to become addicted to tech. Now, I think that's already happened. I think children are naturally going into things like tech, like they look at an iPad, they look at a mobile phone. They're naturally drawn to the colorful, the sound, all these wonderful sensory experiences. So I don't think this is the best way of doing it. And I honestly don't think this has anything to do with legislation powers or governmental powers, giving the FTC more control. This isn't going to help things. This has everything to do with the parent and the child and how they raise them. What the devil is a child doing with a credit card, for example, that they are spending real world money and not knowing any better? That is purely a problem between the parent and the child, not the addictive nature of technology or the addictive nature of video games. Because video games are supposed to be compelling. I know that's the nice way of saying it's addictive, but that's what media is. It's supposed to be stimulating so much that you want to keep experiencing it, or you want to experience it in different ways. So you might see a movie, you might want to play the game of the movie, you might want to read the books of whatever franchise there is. And those are all business models. So one thing is you don't want to have too many business models in your business models, although obviously a producer of a product would love that. And that's really the problem here. Is this ethical? Is this right? Is this good? And I would say, who cares? That's my opinion. I just don't care. If you don't want to buy something, don't buy something. No one's putting a gun to your head. Now, I do not like when a game has all these elements in it, and the difference of the design that I would argue, not to legislate it, is that you don't want too many elements. You don't want them bombarding you with sales pitches and advertising arrows and things like that. That gets a little ridiculous. But I understand it for certain games, like online social games you play on Facebook. That's where it became popular. That's where the boom and bust sort of came with Farmville and games like that. Those are still around. They're going to still be around. They exist in the mobile world. They're not going away. So maybe legislation will control that. I know there has been legislation throughout the world. I believe Belgium has done it. Other parts of Europe, Japan. That's a huge issue in Japan because their games are just. There's always a new game from Japan, and it's always unlock this, get more in-game currency for that. So, and Now, if they want to tie this into, or the states at least, wants to tie this into gambling, there are already rules for gambling which are outside of video games and children. So if they want to connect that properly, that's fine. I think that's great. The whole RNG factor of spending money and getting a random drop or a random loot box, as it were, is I wouldn't say a disgusting practice, because sometimes you can just get those loot boxes randomly from in-game currency that you earn normally through the game. So it's really strange, and I would just prefer a hands-off approach to this, because it's up to the individual to spend money. If you want to spend like $20, whatever it is, on all sorts of addictive games that you know are addictive because you're still playing them, that's up to you. Now for children, I don't know. That's entirely a parenting thing, and I don't really think you want the government to tell what parents can and can't do to raise their children. So this is obviously a controversial topic, because all the people I've ever talked to say that this is a bad thing, and I agree. You don't want these business models working and being prevalent throughout the various video game industries on mobile and AAA or whatever. But at the same time, I don't want a government body to start enforcing rules. Imagine going to a developer studio and just rounding them up because their publisher told them to make a certain game. I mean, that's ridiculous. So there's certain things that we have to be aware of, and ultimately it comes down to money, and it comes down to the consumer, and it comes down to the gamer. And all the gamers I know that I've read about, talked to, they say just don't buy into it. Do not buy those products. Do not buy any of these things. Now, on the flip side of that, there is in-game purchases that are fine because they are completely cosmetic. And that's the Riot Games or the League of Legends model. And that's a huge company. So there's nothing wrong with in-game purchases. It's in what regard. And I think it has mostly to do with skill and the fact that, if you're playing a game for a year and then your buddy comes in and he just throws $80 down and he's got the same amount of stuff as you do, which is not cosmetic, that's where a lot of gamers do not appreciate it, because it's not fair. It doesn't show a level of skill. It just shows that you have a lot of money. So that's where we don't like it. But hey, this is again a contentious issue. There's all sorts of things to consider. My response is always hands off, but maybe you guys think differently. I'd love to hear some comments, because these things are not going away. Video games and their way to make money are not suddenly going to change overnight for the better. And we have to keep showing that to these publishers that you can only buy, or you only want the games you want to play with all this crap of in-game transaction in them. Please leave your comments below. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and have yourself a great day.